What is going on, guys? Today we're going to be looking at the best free players from each position. So we've got one cheap, one mid, and one expensive. Roughly the cheap is going to be anywhere between 100k and below. The mid is anywhere from 200 to say 500-600 at a max. And the best is obviously going to be the most expensive card, or at least the best one in that position. We start off straight off the bat with a gold Courtois. So again, very cheap on the gold cards, may fluctuate in price during some SBCs, but predominantly he is at the kind of floor fodder value right now. And I think with keepers, we're going to blast through them, but they are pretty normal throughout, to be honest. You could go with a gold Courtois and you could more than likely prefer him to his team of the year, to an inform, to an icon, but it was all down on preference. But he's my cheap option. Are you tired of using players like this? I would much rather have teams more like this. Then I recommend going over to skycoach.gg for all of your coaching and coins needs. They are cheap, fast, and reliable, but at the checkout, make sure you are using code JT11 for a discount on your orders. Back to the video. We then have the mid option, which again is a half and half. I feel like you could argue between Courtois and I'd say mid Van der Sar, depending on which one you'd prefer, but Team of the Year always adds a good value anyway, because it's the highest rated keeper thus far. 96 rated will always give you a semi-good game at the very minimum, just from the rating alone, and all of the juice stats got a nice kind of bonus to him. And if you are picking gold Courtois, then 96 is normally going to do at least better, or at the very minimum the same. And then finally we have Van der Sar. Personally, my big preference for a keeper. He has done wonderful throughout his goalkeeping career with me at the moment. His mid's always been pretty good, base wise is a bit hit and miss, prime's always solid, but this Team of the Year icon definitely has done its service and has put himself over the 96 Courtois. So normally I would always stick with the goalkeeper, but as chemistry as well as just seeing what Van der Sar can do, he's just proven himself for me. Then we'll move on to some right backs. So we have cheap gold Kyle Walker. 3-star, 2-star, definitely a lot cheaper than what he was prior, especially at the start of the year. Really cheaper in comparison, but will still give you a good solid run out. He's got great pace, defending physical can go with an anchor, and you've still got an incredible amount of pace, as well as having that defending and physical bonus. Doesn't necessarily have the composure for this game now, but most definitely as a gold card for the price that you're paying is definitely a very good shout. In the mid version, we've gone with Delot. Very cheap for the option of the mid, to be honest. We've still got another 3 to 200k to play with, but I think absolutely solid. He's got the pace, he's got the dribbling, composure's good, defending's good, physical's solid, and he has no traits, which is always perfect, but in general, a very reliable card. He's not necessarily the quickest on the pitch, but then has no defending. He has a very good run out through all of his card, to be honest. He's got good short passing as well, and I think he's just a very consistent option that I have seen going through FIFA. And that brings us on to the final card, which just had to be Team of the Year Hakimi. He has been brilliant. We've used him a couple of times in drafts, in obviously some loan version of him, as well as another loan version that we used. He has been brilliant. His pace is just absolutely absurd. Dribbling wise, very agile, gets up and down the pitch if you like that sort of option as a right back. Very good at that overlap, and overall just is a better looking card because of that Team of the Year status until we get into Team of the Season. But he's going to be my best right back. I think other options, if you're looking at it, Carlos Alberto's got to be up there, Path to Glory Walker, and obviously Carfu as well. But there is loads of fullbacks now really coming through the gears. Onto the defenders, and where would we be without Gold Virgil? He is probably one of the best gold cards that you can get. I'd probably say he's an essential card if you don't rock a solid back line. Other than Mbappe, he's definitely cost for cost the best gold card you can get on the game. Mbappe being, I think, 800k, or he may be a bit cheaper now or more expensive, but Virgil for a gold card has been magnificent. 816 games for me, and in general I've not seen a slip up once. He is phenomenal, and he always has been phenomenal, and hopefully next year we don't lose too much of a rating from him, because he has just got the body type, the ability, Everything is down to a T, and this is just a must gold card 100%. Then onto the mid card, which is going to be Winter Wildcards Tomori. Again, an absolute beast. There is so many centre-backs this year that I could have picked, but Tomori is definitely one that's catching the eye of a lot of people, and I think if we do get, well, when we get a Team of the Season Tomori, he will be an absolute monster in the back line. We've already got 88 pace on the base, defending, physicals are very nice, could do with just that little bit more on that passing, and honestly this would be just one of the best centre backs you can get. It's coming in at 6'1", 2-star, 4-star, which again is not terrible for a centre back, and I think in terms of the price, if you're looking at a solid centre back, and especially English with a lot of leaks there, as well as Serie A if you wanted to mix in them chemistries, is an outstanding player you can get in your mid lineup. And then the most expensive centre back, it's got to be Virgil. Again, with this sort of centre-back, it could be Virgil, Lucio, Maldini, and even throw in Vidic and Nesta as a top option as well. But Virgil, just purely for the fact that gold card is so good, I always love a Team of the Year. Team of the Year, Team of the Season Virgil has always been magnificent whenever he's had that upgrade, and most definitely, this one doesn't disappoint. 88 pace on the base, 97 defending with 99 composure, great passing stats, great physical stats. Again, just a wonderful, wonderful card, and obviously it does come in at a cost, so that is going to be my 3 cheap options as a centre-back. Now on to the left back. Nobody beats Ferland Mendy. Probably up there again for cost, one of the best gold cards you can get. I think Mbappe, Ferland and Virgil are always standouts every year. Walker as well normally is pretty good. So I would say in terms of gold cards, you do tend to find there is a couple that are just the perfect ones. No matter the point in the game, he will give you that shout. He's a 4-star, 5-star, which is just absurd for a left back anyway. We have got a Winter Wildcard, which is considerably more expensive than the gold, but the pace is fantastic. The defending and physical could definitely do with a bit of work, as well as the composure, but that, like I say, is fixed in the next version of him, and if we do manage to see a footage, it just takes that card again to that next level. We then go for a brand new card in Road to the Final, Nuno Mendes. He is a 3-star, 4-star, again a little bit off from Ferland, but the stats don't lie. Great pace on him, a little bit more on that composure, still not incredible amounts, but the big thing with this card, and especially why I've picked him now, if you was to say pick him up, whether PSG go through is irrelevant for the card, but if he does manage to go through, that just makes this card better. And yes, that will affect the price as well, but for right now, it's not a bad left back. Capdevia is kind of more at the topper end of the scale. I think he's now coming in at about 700-800 due to a price increase, so I would have put him more as my benchmark for the better ones. Additional information, that's nice. So win first knockout, we'll get a first upgrade. Qualify for the quarterfinals is another upgrade. 3 new traits and an upgrade for the semi-finals, and 5-star weak foots for qualifying for the finals, and then a 5-star skiller and an inform for the win of the Champions League. That's actually really sick that they've added that as well. But obviously, this card at right now is a very good mid-tier left back if you wanted a brand new left back. Now in terms of the final one, we've kind of gone the same again. It's got to be a bit of Theo. You could semi-argue Roberto Carlos Prime. I think you could definitely argue World Cup Heroes Capdevia, and probably Winter Wildcards Mendy. Just purely based off price efficiency, but in terms of Theo, the stats are just incredible. The pace is maxed out pretty much. We've got great passing on him, dribbling's looking fantastic with great composure, defending could do with a bit of work, but you've got a lot of room to play with because we don't need any more pace. We could do a pass and defending. Physicality is actually really good on him as well. He's just an all-round very nice player. Until we get Team of the Season, we won't see too many left backs at this sort of caliber, so he has that little bit of an edge where people, if they've got him, they're gonna be playing him. Now into the CDM role, and one of my favorite CDMs, Essien base is, or I think it's Essien mid in fact actually. I want to say the base is a little bit more expensive. I would be wrong. I'm pretty sure base is 85 purely for the fact that I know we had an SBC a couple years ago, But yeah, this is the mid Essien. I would say definitely the base is better than the mid, but the mid is coming in at 100k cheaper, which is going to be where I just get him at that cheap rating. Still could do with a shadow of some kind, but in general, the presence of him in that CDM role is always very nice. No traits on him, unfortunately, and he is the cheaper option. Now we're getting into the later stages of the game. Prices are going to be a little bit more. We're tending to have a lot of untradeable players. We've got a lot of icon packs we've had. More than likely, you've had 2 midfielders, a striker, a left wing, a right wing by now. That is at least at this sort of cheap level. More than likely, you've had a couple of mids. I think even with my look with icons, we've had a lot of stinkers, but we've still had a couple of players that most definitely are better than the 70k icons, than the 90k icons. We've had a couple of 100 to maybe 500k icons. They could definitely make it into the team. So nobody should be absolutely rocking out and buying an icon at 100k, but if you are starting the fresh game, Essien's definitely not a bad shout. The mid version is going to be Xabi Alonso, and I normally don't put SBCs into this, but most definitely as a CDM, if he is still here, which we're going to double check, but I think he could be. Whether he is a question. He is still here. He's here till the 28th of April, so we have got time to do this card, and he is absolutely outstanding. A brilliant CDM. He rocks forward, he defends, he does the whole ship. A 4-star does start as a DM as well. I have changed his position, so what I've done with the CDM, CM, and cams, they are all starting at a CDM. So if they are, say, for instance, like Matthias, his World Cup version is a CDM, but then his prime is a centre mid, we've gone for whatever position he's in. So for instance, Xabi Alonso is a centre mid in my team, but he actually starts as a DM, and so does the other 2 options, for instance, Essien and obviously Alonso, and then finally Yaya Toure. Starts as a CDM, even though he's arguably very good as a box-to-box, one of the better CDM starters you can physically get. In this game, he is just outstanding. Very much like a lot of these options, the top options are what everybody wants. You open a hero pack, you want Ginola, you want Yaya. Marquisio's always a solid option as well, and then somebody like a Di Natale or anybody of that sort of caliber. But Yaya most definitely, especially this year, is #1 shout. It just has to be. A 4-star giant that just runs the midfield like nothing. An incredible card if you can get him, and if you have, then your midfield is set. And then we go on to the CMs. Now, I wasn't too sure with the cheap centre mid, because realistically, there is very few centre mids that I'm like, yes, that guy gets into the team no matter what. He's a cheap beast, he works it. With the CMs, I feel like it's very much CDM, cam orientated, but I think in terms of centre mids and solid centre mids, De Jong does a service still. Yes, he's not necessarily going to be everybody's cup of tea, and like I said, there's going to be a lot of untradeable cards. You more than likely have a very, very solid set of 2 CMs. De Jong wouldn't make it into my team, and I could imagine a lot of the teams I've played in champs, in rivals, it wouldn't get into their team either. But if you are brand new to the game and starting out, then this is a card that you could go for if you wanted to. We're not going to dwell on him too much, but Balak is going to be my next shout. And honestly, I wouldn't have made this option until I actually played with him this year, because FIFA 18, FIFA 19, it was Balak, Vieira, Hullet. They ran that midfield. Matthias would be in there if you couldn't afford one of them, but they ran that midfield. He's 6'2", 4-star, doesn't necessarily have the agility of a very lightning speed dribbler, but in terms of that powerhouse midfielder, he is outstanding. He's got a bullet shot, he gets in the way of the ball, and like I say, even with the 81 defending, you go with a shadow, you whack that up, he just puts himself in the way. He's so big, like Vieira and Hullet, that the ball just naturally rotates to him, and I don't know how it does it. It just works so well with very tall centre mids, CDMs, cams. It just works, and Balak is definitely an option that I'd be looking at. Now, in terms of the final option, we're obviously going for a team of the year. Modric is definitely a big shout. Obviously, Bellingham is very well balanced, and I think he's probably the most balanced out of the 3. But you whack a shadow on KDB, a 4-star, 5-star in that centre mid, the stats are just endless. You've got the highest rated team of the year in the midfield, and he just plays that position. He reminds me very much of a Zidane, that he doesn't necessarily have the most amount of defending, but you just have to stick him in the way. If I'm playing him in a 2 midfield, in a 3 midfield he'd go in Cam, in a 2 midfield I'd have a CDM, I'd have a Yaya, I'd have a Conte or somebody like that to hold that position, and he would be that free roam. If he can win the ball back, brilliant. If not, he's the outlet straight into the attack, and he does that effortlessly. Incredible passing, beautiful shot power and long shot, and just in general a very, very top end card you can get in the game. Then we move on to Cams, and Fekir, definitely not forgotten about. A 4-star, 4-star, Team of the Year honourable mentions, and honestly, a nostalgic card from the past couple of years where Fekir has just ran the show. He obviously got a rule breakers right at the start that was okay. It added a little bit of hype back to him. The 88, again, not necessarily the most expensive, but he does come in that cheap category. Very good dribbling, very good passing, and not a bad shot on him as well. So I think for me, he has to go in that with some very, very good traits as well. The mid version, Cherokee, coming in I think about 500 to 600,000, a beautiful card. It is effortless. A 5-star, 5-star, gone back obviously to the French nation, and in general this card just tears it through. The agility balance is outstanding, the skill is beautiful, the pace is fantastic. You obviously go with the Hunter with him, which just maxes out as much as possible, and he just runs through. It is just effortless for him, and he is a beautiful cam if you could afford it. But the number one, obviously going to Pele. Of course it is. It's a toss-up between Pele and Zidane. Pele at 98, you're never going to turn that down. Zidane's only extra option that you've got, and I think is the only thing that would change, is that he is a 5-star, 5-star. It's the only thing, and to be honest, Pele can be striker, which works really well, whereas I would definitely prefer a Pele at striker rather than a Zidane. I'd rather go Zidane cam and Pele striker rather than the other way around. But in terms of rating and just in general efficiency on the pitch, Pele is just a godsend when it comes to it. He just naturally gets the ball, wins it, takes it, does whatever he wants with it. And then we go on to left wing. Again, very much like the centre mid role. Left wing, there's very few that I'd go for under 100k and think, you know what, he would actually win. If you are starting a brand new account and you have got very little coins, Vinny is your man. If you've got 100k to spend on a left wing, Neymar most definitely is your man. A 5-star, 5-star, doesn't necessarily have the shot power, but what he brings is just dribbling and ability in the final third. He isn't necessarily known for incredible long shots and just absolutely beating it from 25, 30 yards, but beating players, getting through, learning the skills, getting the basics down, and especially at the cost now, is 100% worth it if you are starting this game out brand new. He is always been a fan favourite. You're always looking for his team of the season, hoping at some point he could get another team of the year, but I feel like we are looking very, very slim coming up into next year, really. I feel like next year's probably the last shout. Other than that, it's just going to be team of the season and footies for him. In terms of the mid version, again, when I did the review, I'm not going to pronounce his name as well. Cannot do it. But a 4-star, 5-star future star that is just an absolute baller. Again, like Cherokee, the dribbling is outstanding. The agility is perfect. We've got great shooting on him. The pace is brilliant. He just, again, is another brilliant starter that you can get that is a new card. Somebody that you would never really put into your team, can have them Serie A links as well. You're very much not going to have many Georgians in your team anyway, so it's going to have to be Serie A links. So that is the only way to get him on free cam, or if you wanted to bring him off the bench, whether you'd spend that amount of money to bring someone off the bench is up to you, but in general, a wonderful, wonderful card. And then we move on to probably my favourite card in the game, hands down, full stop, no arguing. It's obviously Team of the Year icon Ronaldinho. He is just a godsend. I am so gutted that they didn't give him the 5-5. I feel like that genuinely would have solidified this card as my favourite card of all time. But unfortunately, they've kept him at the 5-4. But the stats are just incredible. We used him in draft for a little bit because the card is still coming in, I'm pretty sure, at one of the highest prices you can get. I think the only other card that is more expensive, I want to say, was Hullet. Oh no, Mbappe, Hullet, R9. He's actually dropped down loads. We are looking at, unless that's got a random, where is he? Left wing. It is not on there for some reason. Why on earth is he not on there? Ronaldinho. I could check the actual team, but he is coming in. Oh, extinct at 15 mil. No wonder. So he's at 0. So at the minute, he is one of the most expensive cards. Mbappe and Hullet are at the same price as well. So again, he is just absolutely flawless. Then we move on to the right mids. Diaby is a brand new card from the road to the final. And honestly, do him. Do him, do him, do him. Because he is coming in, I think, at about 60k value, one team, 85 rated. He is an absolute must. The pace abuse is just absolutely outstanding. You go with something like a Deadeye or a Finisher just to whack out whatever you want because we've already got the agility balance. Yes, doesn't necessarily have the strength, but the physicality side, the pace side of him is always outstanding. His inform was just known to be absolutely rapid. This card is going to be an absolute sensation. We definitely need to get him done. I don't know how well Bayer Leverkusen are doing. I want to say they aren't doing too well in the Europa. Whether they can call it, they can turn it around. We saw it a couple of years ago with Atalanta, with obviously Alessandro Gomez, I want to say, was pegged for no informs, no upgrades, no nothing. They went on 3 rounds more and managed to get a couple of upgrades on him. Whether that happens now is a totally different story, but if you do him, even at this 88, he is an outstanding super sub if you haven't got a spot for the cheap player. In terms of right mids in the mid-tech section, Saka has got to be my option. A 4-star, 5-star genius. Pace is unbelievable, great finishing on him, passing's good, dribbling's outstanding, and obviously he's got the stamina to burn. Unfortunately, no traits on him, which I am very surprised with Saka. I thought he might have had a little bit of place somewhere for a trait, but in general, this card at 300,000 is an absolute gem to get in if you haven't got a right mid already. Jarzinho is obviously a lot of people's choice, mainly because they have done that SBC, but if you haven't, then Saka is an option. In terms of the best, it's got to be 98 Messi. The highest rated team of the year you can possibly get, and the stats never lie. There's very little to say about him other than he's absolute genius on the ball. The dribbling is outstanding, the finishing's brilliant, but he's obviously coming in at a very, very big cost. On to the centre forwards now. We've gone for a bit of Zola, who is just touching the category of 100,000 coins. And I think in terms of a centre forward, most definitely comes in with some play, to be honest. He isn't necessarily the most efficient in the most meta now, but most definitely, like I say, if this is a brand new account and you've only got, say, 100k to play with, he's not a bad shout to go forward. There's very few gold cards or informs or anything that will give you the same sort of output than what Zola can do. Obviously, again, with these centre forwards, they have to be a primary centre forward position. So obviously Zola is a centre forward, but can play as a striker. We've then gone for a 5-star, 5-star Ribery. Again, people have done the SBC, but if you haven't, the Rule Breakers is still going to be a very sensational card that you can get off the market. And as a centre forward with a 5, you're never going to argue at that. Flair outside on the traits. We've got great pace, great shooting. Dribbling could do a bit of work, but again, we've already got the pace. You could go for an engine if you wanted a bit more agility. And then the final card, you know it's Hullet. Hullet's got to appear somewhere. If it's not in the midfield, it's most definitely in the centre forward role. This card is, like I say, coming in at about 14 to 15 mil, and you can see why. The prime is just as sufficient, but if you can get the Team of the Year icon, if you've packed him, if you just want to get the best Hullet, then obviously this is your man. Very little to say about him other than he is just an absolute cheat code in the game. And then we move on to the final position, which is going to be a striker. The first one, as the cheap one, I was a bit unsure, to be honest, because again, like the centre forwards, there is very few strikers that I look at them and think, you know what, if I went cheap team versus absolutely incredible team, there's very few that I think, you know what, that is a meta striker that's going to work. Maybe we could go for a Ben Yedder. He definitely would still have some play, but I think from Vardy's pace, his shooting, just a general dribbling on him, the 90 composure, is a very good stat to have, and I think he would manage to pop in a few against the big teams as well. If we go on to the mid then, we are looking at Ben Yedder with obviously his Foot Centurions. Still coming in now, I think about 400k, which is really not bad for a Ben Yedder. For a 4-star, 5-star, we are looking to get, I believe, the Player of the Month Ben Yedder very soon, which more than likely will be an 88 or 89, so that would be taking over this role for the time that SBC is live, and he genuinely is an in-game masterpiece. The dribbling's fantastic, the shooting just works, gets a great link with Mbappe, and obviously has the pace to burn as well. And then the final one, it's got to be Mbappe. Mbappe, Haaland, R9, Eusebio, Cruyff, just all of them are outstanding. Mbappe always comes in at number 1 though, with the team of the year especially. He is an absolute gem up front, but again, will cost you a pretty penny. You're looking at Mbappe, Hullet and Ronaldinho all being about 45 mil for the three of them. That is absolutely crazy. That, to be honest, probably over 1 or 2 FIFAs, I probably haven't made 45 mil, and that is a front three that you could get. But Mbappe is always going to be number 1. Gold card, probably the best gold card you can get on the game as well, just as an extra option. But if you did enjoy the video, let me know down below. Let me know your cheap beasts or most expensive players that you've got in your team. Make sure you like and subscribe on this, and I'll catch you all for the next one. Peace.